Everybody, welcome tonight. Welcome tonight to our third gathering of community members. How many people here in the room have not attended one of the other two nights? Raise your hand if you have not. Okay, handful of you. Okay, welcome. Thanks for being here. We are not going to do a whole lot of recap. Let me just make it as brief as possible, just to catch everybody up. There's a comprehensive plan that is due. It is a state-mandated plan that is due in 2026. The folks up here have decided to try to get that done by the end of 2025. This is a plan that is asking these various cities to create their plan to meet the guidelines that are set forth from the government. We have had some really amazing conversations over the last couple weeks. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But the purpose of our time here together is so that these folks up here who are your listeners, and listeners, can you all say hi? Hi, listeners. Listeners. These are folks from the Planning Commission. They're from the council, city council. They're folks that work for the city. And their mandate is to create this plan. And they don't want to do that in a vacuum. They don't want to do that in a room tucked away somewhere without input. They really want to hear from you. And so Carl, your mayor, who I'll introduce here in a moment, has asked that the community come together and give advice and share opinions on a variety of issues so that they can incorporate all that into their plan. So a couple weeks ago, we got together and we had a full house and we talked about community. We talked about community specifically as it relates to housing, talked about the mandate for, just the fact that Leavenworth is going to be experiencing some increased density, some increased population based on some of the mandates coming down from the state. And what are we going to do about that? How are we going to make sure that we have the quality of life that we really want? What was your advice to these folks in planning for that change in density? Some really great ideas and thoughts and advice that came out of that. And then last week we talked about sustainable tourism and talked about the bell curve of what happens when a city kind of reaches its peak of tourism before it starts becoming a problem, and what can we do to make sure that we manage that well. So lots of really good ideas and thoughts. And again, the idea is that in October, and I don't remember the date, Kara, what is 14th. October 14th is going to be the night that we can all come back together and hear back from these folks and answer lots and lots of questions that were asked and report out all the things that they heard and summarize everything and give everybody a really good update on where we're going with that. So that's going to happen in October. Tonight, the topic is the physical environment, our resources. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But again, the idea is that they want to hear from you. We want to make sure that your concerns are heard and that your ideas and advice are heard from these folks up here. All right, everybody know where we're at? That's what we're doing. As usual, last couple nights we said the same thing. There are places for you to drop some questions. Are we still doing that tonight? We have a question box back here. Is there? And yes, where is it? Right here. One up here. There's still one in the lobby. No, okay, so there's two here tonight, right? There's one here, one here. If you have questions that don't get answered tonight because there's not a whole lot of time for back and forth question and answer, please write down your questions and put those in those drop boxes. You can also email the city with those questions because, again, the hope is that in October we're able to get everyone back together and you can get lots of your questions answered. Any questions about that, about kind of what we're about? What we're doing, what we're here about, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so we're one thing we have done the last couple nights is we've talked a little bit about kind of rules of the road and some of basically what's it going to take for people to come together with quite a diverse set of expectations and opinions, and for us to have a conversation that's respectful. And I don't think we need to do that because the last couple nights have been fantastic. We really appreciate everybody's involvement, and there's been such good listening, and nobody grabbed the microphone and talked for 20 minutes except for me. And everybody seemed to just really just show up with a really good spirit of respect and really honoring one another's various opinions. So just going to assume it's going to continue to happen tonight. Just listen well. Feel free to speak up. We're going to have a couple times where you're going to be asked to share at your table, and then ask you then to choose a couple people to report out. And feel free to represent what you heard at your table. There's no requirement that the folks at your table all agree. In fact, the more opinions, the better. And so, a couple people reporting out what you heard at your table. We're not looking for consensus. We're not here to make any decisions tonight. We just really want to hear from you. So that's the plan. I'm going to have Carl come up and talk a little bit about what we're about tonight and for this whole process. So here's your mayor.
And you don't need to hear from me very much at all, because I know a lot of you have been here for the last couple of times, and you know that what this was about for me was a promise that I made when I ran for mayor the first time around, that we would have a chance to basically to kind of revision. We did a visioning in the 60s called Life, Leavenworth Improvement for Everyone, and it was because we were a dying town. Now, 60 years later, we are a far from dying town. We are going concern. We are on the map, so to speak. But that brings with it other challenges and the possibilities of being a dying town if your idea of a community is someplace with diversity of incomes and diversity of ages and diversity in those areas, then we are in danger of losing that very town that we saved by having this great Bavarian theme. So I promised a time that we could come together and kind of relook at that vision and re-examine and say, what do we want to look like going forward, and then how do we get there together? And again, as was pointed out, this is a time for our city to just listen. It's a time for you to have those conversations. As Mike was saying, we did it around the housing and what the community should look like in our perfect world. We did it about, how to sustain a tourism economy in a way that melds with the community and doesn't displace it. And now tonight we're going to look at another something that happens when you have this many people coming, and that is how to be good stewards of our natural environment. We know that what draws a lot of us here is the beauty that we see and experience. We like the rock climbing, and we like the rivers, and we like the trails, and like anything, it's in danger of being loved to death. So tonight is a chance to explore some of those areas and concerns, and again, to give some feedback. And then just let me say again, on the 14th, we're going to report back. We're going to grab a lot of this as well as the hundreds and hundreds of input that we got online as well. We're going to put all that together, and using a little tool with AI, if you know how that works, be able to kind of bring all of that and make some sense out of it and report back, but also to give you next steps and next stages, because this is going to be, again, 3 nights is not finished. It's an ongoing process, and we want you to stay engaged beyond that. And we'll talk about what those next steps would look like. So again, I just thank you for coming out, giving time. We know it's been a huge commitment. I really, really appreciate it. And just, again, encourage you to stay engaged beyond this. So thanks again for your presence.
Thanks, Carl. So I have a question, kind of a double question for you at your table. Would you please talk about, first of all, what drew you here to Leavenworth in terms of the natural environment? activities, beauty, etc. If you can identify something that drew you here or kept you here in terms of the natural environment. And the follow-up or the secondary question about that is, how do you currently engage with the natural environment? Activities, et cetera, right? So what drew you here or kept you here in terms of our natural resources, and in what ways do you currently engage with all of that? So just talk about that at your table. You can maybe make some notes if you'd like. We're going to have you report out so we can get a sense of how you are engaging and what you're loving about the natural environment here. Thank you. All right, folks. I'm going to interrupt your wonderful conversations here. I'm just going to ask you, each of these 8 tables, to report out what you heard. What were some of the various responses to those 2 questions? So I'm going to start over here. Who's going to be is that you, Courtney? All right. Talk to us.
How much you want? Most of us came here or stayed here for the same reasons, all the outdoor, like you asked, like everybody assumed. And largely it's the accessibility for backpacking, hiking, snow sports, skiing, cross-country, mountain biking, the river paddleboarding, the small-time charm, and the Icicle Canyon recreation, camping.
Okay, thank you. All right, over here. Why are you here? What drew you here? What kept you here?
Starting with its home, water, mountains, walkability, 4 seasons, job at Stevens Pass, hike, walk, bike, ski, camping, room to spread out, foraging, and stand-up paddleboarding.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm just amazed that Kara is even doing this. Did you get all that, Kara? Okay. Did you get the stand-up waterboarding? Waterboarding. Go write that down.
And also proximity to wildlife.
Proximity to wildlife. Good. Nice. All right. Did you say breweries over here?
We came up with one of them. Its original is Alpenglow and Night Sky Stars, and obviously rock climbing and ice climbing, plant life, lots of plant life here, sunshine, warm temps, 4 seasons, enchantments, hiking, family. Some of us stay here for family, so a lot of the same stuff.
Nice. Lovely. This list is really cool to watch this grow up here. All right, over here.
So we had hiking, kayaking, rock climbing, partner and job and employment are actually nature adjacent for both as well.
Cool. You guys?
So half of us weren't familiar with the Leavenworth area and moved here for either jobs or other reason, and then stayed here because of the amazing proximity to things like skiing, both downhill and Nordic, the wild rivers, hiking and backpacking. So we feel a sense of pride living here and being part of this community for those reasons.
Kara, do you need repeats? Are you good so far? You're good? Okay. Back here.
Yeah, we also all came to this place. None of us were born here. And the reasons we came were for river guiding, the rural east side lifestyle, the affordable land, the small town feel, access to the mountains, nature and its proximity, the biodiversity as you sort of move down valley, and how we sort of interact now with the lands. Some of us are land managers through forest thinning, prescribed fire, riparian restoration, recreationalists, naturalists. We have someone that works at Derby Canyon Natives. We're all gardeners. We like to hunt, fish, gather, and forage.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Over here.
Hey everyone, I think most people in this table came in a little later because of work and such things. But I'll share what I got from the questions, and it's a lot of outdoor recreation, the schooling. Mountain Sprouts my daughter's for, so we're looking at educational programs. But really, we've been in the valley since '89, so it was work initially in agriculture.
And several of us were, actually, all three of us came here because of jobs. So,
Unlike others, I came here for the alcohol and the drugs and the bratwurst.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. Okay.
We wanted to be different and maybe just say we all came just for the festivals. No, we did not. Don't write that down. Overall, the theme was maybe proximity and access, a variety of options, especially in like abilities and seasons of life, that there was a variety. Views, 4 seasons, talked about snow and sun. The trails have a lot of variety and different like amounts of volume. There's a lot of trails that you can get to nearby. The skiing, mountain biking, climbing, all those things that were mentioned. I think we would add playgrounds and that a lot of these things are safe and clean.
Wonderful. Thanks, folks. I've got a little bit of a harder question now. What has changed in terms of our natural resources and what's at risk? In your opinion, what has changed and what is at risk? And talk a little bit about that, please. Thank you. You mean like how changed since when? I don't know. You'll have to interpret. You'll have to interpret. Since 1776. How about what you have seen change? There's your time period. What have you seen change and what is at risk? All right, I'll give you about 1 more minute. 1 more minute. All right, folks. Thank you. Let's regroup. The question at your table, what have you seen change in terms of our natural resources here? And yeah, we'll talk about what have you seen change and what's at risk. What are your concerns about what's at risk? So I'm going to start over here this time. I'll start back here. You are on. Okay, listen up, folks.
Take a deep breath for this one. All right, for what has changed, we're going to go back a little bit farther than what we have personally witnessed, back to sort of the original stewards of this place. And a big one was that the original stewards were fully dependent upon the natural resources of this land. And we see that has changed. Even to when the first town arrived, the dependency was on the natural resources for the timber and industry, which we know from exploitation probably led to that downfall. And as we have transitioned our economies, we have witnessed, we are less dependent upon the natural resources and their well-being. We have witnessed ourselves the river traffic increase, the enchantments, and sort of access to trails, climbing, the silence and sounds of nature, the snowpack, climatic changes. What we see is at risk is of sort of a lack of recognition of that change. Because we are less dependent upon it, we do not recognize what's happening in front of us potentially, especially as new people move in and don't have that long-term vision. The daily access is at risk. The funding, especially at the national level for forest management, forest and infrastructure at risk due to catastrophic and high severity wildfire, water and fish with volumes and temperatures being affected. The natural views in our dark skies are at risk. Negative interactions with wildlife as we expand into their areas. Those having negative effects, and the long-term sort of sustainability, integrity of our trails and our winters.
Wow, what he said. Thank you very much. Follow that up.
Okay. We talked about lots of things. Space, more people in town, more tourists. So just the crowding and how that affects everything. The loss of orchards. We have more wineries now. The demographics, fewer ag workers can be here because of the cost of living. The river, the beautiful river is so crowded in the summer and being kind of defiled. And how do we handle that? And what do we do with that? Because that's not okay. We have free public transportation now. We have a different snowpack, right? We have watershed differences. We have salmon runs that have been affected, wildlife. And Rick was wonderful about saying during COVID that we saw more wildlife come out because we were in our houses, and how cool that was. Fire season, huge fire season, navigating fire season. Housing, less housing, cost of living, how housing is I mean, it's been painful to watch the new houses, and my apology to anybody that lives there, but to watch the wetland go away, where Mrs. Varvero used to take the third graders for their field trip to see the red-winged blackbirds. That was painful to watch. It was just really deeply painful. And there are beautiful houses there, and I'm glad people have homes, but it's been hard to see. Cost of living up, and we have a lot of traffic, which affects everything. Natural resources, that was a stretch. And we don't have downtime now without tourists. We have a little bit of March, we have a little bit of November, but that affects all of us.
Very good. Yes. Thank you. Well put. All right, folks.
I don't have much to add after those. We focused mostly on the increase in number of people. The crowds have definitely changed, putting at risk the just the natural beauty of the area. That I'm looking for anything that wasn't already covered in detail. Let's see. Yeah. A lot of it is the noise, but we talked about the noise on the river, and then also some of the motorized vehicles, the areas outside of town that don't get talked about quite so much, like the enchantments, but up Eagle Creek Canyon and some of the other canyons. I think there's been motorized vehicle traffic out there for a long time, but it has increased, and that's getting popular too, and the impact on the environment is a little bit greater when you're talking about razors and Jeeps and vehicles up there. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers.
It's okay to repeat stuff that you've heard that tells us that more, folks are talking about it. So. All right, who's our speaker here? Mark again.
We came up with accessibility of the goods has changed some. Real busy on weekends. Wildlife, creative or creatures seen and unseen, especially the pollinators. They have been affected, we feel. Of course, the river, recreating on the river is very busy and could have an effect on the salmon habitat. Light and noise pollution, changes in our wetlands and green spaces, less local ownership in some areas, and population density, and that's a lot of what we had. Changes in wildlife. So yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Over here, is this you?
So we talked about all of those things. Thank you so much for bringing them up. Some of the things that were kind of unique to this table, we did talk a lot about affordability and just being concerned that our kids won't be able to afford housing in the place where they were raised. There was mention of public drunkenness, the number of alcohol businesses going in downtown. We also talked a lot about pressures on the natural environment. It's both the parking and the pressures of camping and the rivers, and also just the effects of climate change on the rivers. The fact that the water levels are not rising to what they used to be, development on wetlands, and watching the glaciers at Spider Meadows and Lyman Glacier all melt. And also the intensity and frequency of fire, that change from having low intensity fires from 100 years ago to the highly destructive fires of now, due to a number of factors, but forest management being a main one. Did I get it, guys? Okay, thank you.
Good work. All right, over here. No you. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar faces in here. So to piggyback on everything that's already been said, because I think there's a lot of consensus in the room, one that came up with was evacuation fears. And so when we think about the risk of fire and other, I mean, we've just even with erosion, with our soils changing, so and population density and pathways in and pathways out, and sometimes those are blocked. So just the ability to be mobile in an emergency or in a hazard event. Less tree canopy in town and where there's new developments going in. And we know as we're experiencing variable climate and weather extremes, having tree canopy is really important because it allows us to cool that hot asphalt that touches our puppies' paws, and just to keep ourselves safer because our extremes out here have been quite significant. So we love our 4 seasons, but you know, depending on our El Nino or La Nina years and how things continue to shift, those weather extremes are top of mind. We talked a bit about the changes to our dams up in the alpine space and the environmental and downstream impacts of what that means to increase capacity of those dams. For anybody who's been in North Central Washington long enough, the location of our agriculture. So when orchards used to be in the valley, many are moving up to higher altitudes if they can afford to do that. And as someone mentioned, orchards disappearing and wineries popping up because it's a more favorable climate for those wine grapes. And I don't know if folks talked about this, but just the obvious one, our smoke season, and being a community of recreators and outdoor enthusiasts, and also our tourism and our economic dependence on the conditions of our weather throughout the seasons. Smoke season is just extremely dangerous and not fun. And then that also plays into affordability in our community and whether or not you have the cooling requirements in your housing so that you can stay safe and breathe clean air at the same time. And yeah, other folks mentioned changes to fish habitat. And one thing that we talked about at our table is for folks that are living in town, actually seeing surface water diversion, surface water being channeled to underground resources as developments or homes are being built up, so that becoming groundwater, but then even natural springs from snow melt changing which properties and which routes they take, and erosion can play a big part in that. So that's about sum it up, team.
Wonderful. All right, over here.
We'll make this short and sweet. We're going to put a positive spin on change, because change doesn't have to be bad or negative. So some of the changes that we've seen over the last several years, especially we mentioned like the last 7 to 10 years, is the change of just increased recreational planning and trying to be strategic about the recreational opportunities in the valley, which also is part of legalizing many of the trail systems that all of us mentioned in the first set of questions. And those are supported by an increased amount of organizations and partnerships across multiple different, whether it's nonprofits or federal or state supported organizations that have recognized the uniqueness of the recreation opportunities around here that we've seen develop. And I think most of the things on our at-risk list were mentioned, except for just some increased safety concerns with search and rescue has increased just because of the recreational use, maybe in not the best seasons, and as well as the wild and urban interface that the previous group mentioned.
Go ahead and mention your risks here.
Cleanliness, peacefulness, water quality, and trail quality. So just the overuse. That's what he said.
Yeah, so those are at risks on your list there. Cleanliness, peacefulness, water quality, trail quality. Good, awesome. One more.
We did actually not focus on a positive spin. Too many people, crowded camp areas, crowded rivers, crowded trails, changing climate, traffic, increased fire risk, increased cost of living, including insurance and food, access to domestic water changing with a decreased availability, less snowpack. One of our participants mentioned decreased logging money. There used to be logging money that was allocated for some of the maintenance of our recreation spaces, decrease of recreational trails, increased noise, increased smoke, quality of life at risk.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything else to add to that? Anything that got missed as you were listening to all that? All right. Thank you. A lot of consensus in the room. I appreciate this. I'm going to ask you, real quick, over here. Excuse me.
Thank you so much for the positive spin. We needed that. The thing that I would add is the outdoor education. We have Mountain Sprouts. We have HomeLink, which is now meeting outside. We have WRI doing outdoor education. And also ICCA this year did some outdoor education. So we have all kinds of stuff. And I know that's not everything, but that is really important in building back what we want to have happen.
Good. That's our theme. Good. All right. So thank you very much. We're going to, back over here.
Focus on the negative too, but we thought of a positive. One thing that's changed is Waste Loop and all the work that they're doing in our community. We had glass recycling, hopefully again someday, and composting now. And I just think with more people visiting, ways that we can close the loop on that is so important. So thanks to Waste Loop.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, just to throw a positive on, I think the chamber did the shuttle service for the river, which I think did help quite a bit with the traffic and the parking and that change.
Wonderful. The city? Good. City that over here? All right.
The one I didn't get in there was I've seen an increase in public trails being created since the 8 years I've lived here. A large increase. Yeah, a lot more trails by number.
All right. Stop being so positive, everybody. Okay. All right. So we're going to do something here. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and make this a speed break, and I'll tell you why. We have a lot of activity when you come back from this 5-minute break. You're going to be visiting stations. Lots of really cool stuff's happening for the rest of our evening, but we're going to run out of time if we don't get back here really soon. So if you would just take a 5-minute stretch break, that would be great. There's snacks back here, etc. 5 minutes. All right. Subject matter experts, if you would go to your stations, please. And everyone else, let's start gathering again. Subject matter experts, man your stations. Person your stations, and everybody else gather. All right, come on back, everybody. Grab your snacks. We're going to get really busy here in a minute. All right, folks. All right, I mean it this time. Don't make me ask you again. All right, folks, we are going to, in just a few minutes, we're going to participate in an activity that's a little bit like speed dating, but for the environment. So we're going to have you visiting some stations. But before we do that, I want to just have a representative from each of these areas. You see these 6 different areas on the wall behind you here around the room. Those are our 6 different topical areas with some experts sitting there that are going to be sharing with us and answering some questions and hearing some of your concerns and thoughts. But I'm going to interview them. Well, not really. I'm just going to ask each of these folks to tell us who they are and what they're doing here, what they're here to talk about, who they're representing, what they're representing. So I'm going to start right here.
All right, looks like I get to be the guinea pig. Christina Barone, Planning and Development Manager with Link Transit. Really pleased to be here this evening. Quick rundown on some things we've been doing. So we're about 3/4 of the way through delivering our Vision 2020 plan, which was more than 30 different service and capital projects throughout the region. We've added quite a bit of service in Leavenworth. So Sunday service for the first time ever back in 2020. Huge deal. We've seen really, really strong ridership there. We've added trips on our Route 22 that travels between here and Wenatchee. We've added shuttle service, just kind of circulating locally from Safeway down to Icicle Road. We've added express service between Leavenworth and Wenatchee, and I know some folks in the room who are riders of that service and are really, really happy with it. It's kind of a dream, actually. It's about as fast as driving a car. We've also made our DART service, which is general public on demand. That is same day service, 7 days a week now. The zone roughly goes from Sleeping Lady up to Ski Hill, does cover East Leavenworth Road, and basically you can use an app or call and request a ride, and we'll take you anywhere within the zone. Speaking of an app, we also have our app called MyStop that is a way to track your bus in real time. So that's really, really cool, really handy just for kind of knowing when your bus is coming, take some of the guesswork out of taking the bus. We do offer zero fare service system-wide, and I appreciated the shout out for that earlier this evening. In terms of reducing carbon emissions, we've seen really, really strong ridership increases over the last year. We had more than 1 million fixed route boardings in 2023, and this year we're on track for 1.2 million. So those are really big numbers for Link Transit. I'm super excited about it. We've also begun exploring some additional options to trailheads in the region. So that's something that I'm kind of excited about, and it sounds like that's maybe something people in this room would be interested in. And then in terms of green transit, kind of my topic here, we have been busy at work kind of growing our battery electric bus fleet. We're up to 23 battery electric buses now. We'll have an additional 14 coming over the next 18 months. So we're really close to our urban service in Wenatchee and East Wenatchee being fully electric. We're working on it to Leavenworth and Chelan. That'll be a little bit more slowly but surely, but we are definitely on track for that and super excited. So thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Our folks from Public Lands.
Hello. My spiel's a little bit shorter. I work for the Forest Service. My name is Holly, and I am the district botanist here in Leavenworth.
Good evening. My name is Dan Gilliard. I'm the Deputy District Ranger here at Leavenworth, Wenatchee River Ranger District. And if you don't know, some things we're working on, I heard it in the group today, we're working on wildfire crisis strategies and implementation. Upper Wenatchee Pilot is one of those we're working on. We're also working with some of our trails folks, TREAD for access and different trail organizations. So some of the stuff you're talking about, we're working on at a government rate of speed. So slow to almost like you don't even see it. That's how slow we're going. So anyway.
My name's Caitlin Evans. I'm here representing the Chelan Douglas Land Trust. I do their land acquisitions. Chelan Douglas Land Trust has the Mountain Home trails here in Leavenworth. We also were part of acquiring the Nason Ridge Community Forest. We have lands up the White River and then also down in the foothills and out into Douglas County. We're here to sort of find out and represent how we can be more of a partner in the Upper Valley as far as access and stewardship goes.
Thank you. Zero waste.
Hello, my name is Ariana Jones. This is Sela, and I'm here representing Waste Loop. We're a small nonprofit in town that works with the community at large towards sustainability through waste reduction efforts. So the community at large includes working with the city, working with community members, with businesses, with the school district, in working towards a thriving and supportive community where resources are valued through their life cycle. And we really came to be in 2019 to address an elephant in the room of waste that was happening as we saw an increase in numbers, both tourism and general population, with an increase of impact. And so I'm here to represent that elephant in the room so that we can address some of those challenges that we're seeing that affect all of our resources.
Beautiful. Fire safety. You can meet me halfway. No, here we go.
Hi, my name is Mike Smith. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations for the Fire District and also the Fire Marshal for the City of Leavenworth. The Fire District is a career volunteer combination department. We do have community risk reduction programs for children, elderly adults. On the wildfire side, we provide home assessments. We have a chipping program. Along with the Chumstick Coalition, we support Firewise efforts. As far as development, we work closely with the city to adopt codes. I would thank the city for adopting the WUI code and other appendixes to the code that actually make our job a lot easier. So we're thankful to have that relationship with the city. Our priorities as things continue to develop are going to be improving existing infrastructure stuff that may be outdated or obsolete in these areas as density increases, right, fire risk increases. And our other big priority is just making sure that we maintain access to all of any new developments, any increases in density, that we can still get into those locations without delay. So be happy to answer anybody's questions.
I'm Bob Keller with the Chumstick Wildfire Stewardship Coalition. And I don't want to be redundant, but I want to say that our mission really is to support the fire department. We're really an outreach group with the programs that the fire department has established, with the home inspections that the chief had mentioned right here. Also the chipping program that they have. We try to do outreach work to let people know that that's available and schedule them. We also have annual meetings that are educational meetings for the community. And we're also working with the fire department right now that next year we're really going to be aggressive of going out to neighborhoods and creating Firewise neighborhood networks so that the people will get a home inspection, they'll know who they are, and in their neighborhoods, if they see problems, that we can maybe help have some mitigation done. One of the things that we did this last summer that kudos to the fire department here as well, that there are some evacuation routes in this area that the trees that are approaching those roads could really be a hazard and stop evacuation in the areas. So the fire department has taken upon themselves that they've actually gone out and done some of the fuel reduction right along the roads. And we hope to continue that wherever that's needed.
I'll just, real quick, one other thing I'd like to get people's input on is how to get information to you. We do have all these programs, and I'd just like to get everybody's feedback of like what medium you like to use so that we can make sure that we're getting that out to you, that people are getting that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Tony Feeney, president of Evergreen Central Washington chapter, and we're basically a nonprofit organization that focuses on trail building, advocacy of trails, and education. And so if anybody here has used any of the ski hill trails, those are all Evergreen built trails, and we're currently working on a new one right behind the schools on Rattlesnake Hill. So that's a big focus for our organization. I'll hand it over.
Hi, I'm Hannah Beener. I'm with TREAD. We're also a nonprofit focused on improving outdoor recreation opportunities all over North Central Washington. We help on like kind of the planning side of things. We recently completed a Douglas County comprehensive recreation plan. They never had one before, and now they do, which is really cool. And we are working with partners like Evergreen, other land managers like the Forest Service to just try and improve all sorts of outdoor recreation across our landscape and make sure that it's sustainable too. So I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say tonight.
I'm Rachel Hansen. I represent Chelan PUD. Your electricity is powered by water. We have 2 dams on the Columbia River and 1 at Lake Chelan. We're involved right now in a visioning process very similar to what City of Leavenworth is doing right now, where we're trying to envision what kind of legacy we're going to pass on to the next generation. There's a lot of change happening in the energy field right now, and as a publicly owned utility, we would like your opinion on what that future should look like. So if you're interested, go to chelanpud.org. Imagine 2075.
Hi there, my name is Rebecca Ryan. I'm the Education Director at Wenatchee River Institute. Wenatchee River Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to connect people, communities, and the natural world. We work towards that mission through youth and community education programs. So starting tomorrow, we will have kiddos from the Cascade School District on our campus, but we serve schools throughout North Central Washington. Our staff drove out to Quincy today and did a program with 4th graders there. We also do community programs. You might have been to an event in our Red Barn, or maybe you're foraging with us tomorrow afternoon. Maybe you've attended Bird Fest, but we have lots of different ways of educating and engaging with folks through the natural world.
All right. Thank you, folks. All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you all to make a couple choices. Your first choice is pretty easy. You're going to get 10 minutes at 5 different stations, and there's only 6. So not too many hard decisions here, but you're each going to get, we're going to basically, I'll let you go, and you're going to choose a station, and you're going to spend 10 minutes there. I'm going to call time, and you're going to move on to another one. You're going to have time to go to 5 of the 6 stations. Second choice I'm going to ask you to make is, you see the green cards in your bucket, in your little basket there? Everybody see those green cards? Could everybody please grab 3 of those? Everybody grab 3 green cards. 3 cards each. 3 cards each. Everybody gets 3 cards tonight. So this might be a harder question or a harder choice for you. The 5 different stations probably is not as hard. Now we'd like you to choose 3 priorities for you. Of those 6 different topics, those 6 different areas that you just heard about, what are your top 3 in terms of your concerns, your interest, your passion? And when you go to those stations, you're going to drop a card in their box, right? So we're just going to kind of get a sense of kind of where the most concerns are, most passion, most interest, whatever. So you're going to choose 3 of those 6 areas, and you're not choosing your favorites. It's not a popularity contest. You're not saying this one's more important than this one, but for you, these are the 3 top concerns or top areas of interest. But again, you're going to have a chance to go to 5 different areas. I want to give you some thoughts as to what you might want to talk about when you get there. It's kind of your show. These folks aren't there to give you presentations. They've done that. You're there to talk to them. So here's some thoughts for you. You might want to share things like, what are they doing right? What are you happy about? What would you like to see them doing more of or less of or differently? What are some of your main concerns in that area? What advice or thoughts do you have for them in your perfect world? What would you like them to be doing or not doing? What's your biggest concern? What questions do you have for them? And just a caveat on that, you are absolutely free to bring up your questions. I can't promise you that there'll be time to answer all those questions, but they're going to be recording your questions. They're going to be keeping track. In fact, each of the 6 stations is going to have a scribe, and I want to make sure that's true. Does everybody a couple of these places. Everybody have a scribe? At least someone's going to be writing at these. And so, are some of you scribes up here? Okay, once you go to the station you're going to be at, so there'll be scribes. So there'll be somebody writing down what they hear, what your concerns are, what your questions are, what you want to compliment these folks on, what you would like to see them doing more of or less of, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really your show. You get to talk about what you want to talk about when you get there. I am going to ask that you are relatively responsive to me screaming at you to move on to the next station so we can keep things moving. I'll try not to sound too crazed up here, but I'm going to try to move you on. So when you hear the signal, I'll try to give you a minute warning, and then it'll be time to move on. We don't have time for breaks in between. We're going to try to get all this done in about 50 minutes. We'll see if we can do it. These folks up here, listeners, you're absolutely welcome to join in and listen and listen and listen. Travel around and listen. So go for it. Go to your first station and ask your questions and share your thoughts and share your concerns. And game is on. Environmental speed dating begins now. Yes, you just drop your cards in blank. You don't have to write on your cards. Just drop your 3 cards in your 3 top areas of concern or interest. And speed dating is on. Listeners, feel free to wander and listen.
You drive across town, working for and it's still when they arrived. It was catching the houses on the sides of the fire. They were able to knock the house down, and then concentrate on the fire. But it's those 2 houses caught. And now you have 2 or 3 apparatus. That's where you could run into trouble. And they were doing a really good job on new construction using 8-inch beams, 12-inch beams, doing all that stuff. But there's still stuff existing. So, but they're working on it. They have replacement plans and everything. Absolutely.
Well, we can't wait for thing.
Say, Chief,
We got a whole cut up on our road for chipping.
well, so I guess the biggest thing everybody's had concern about fire. I'd like to hear what your kind of concerns are, and then I'd like to hear if there's anything that you'd like to see the fire department doing, and how you best get information out to everybody.
Yeah, if it's okay, I'll start. Hey, Bob. So, biggest concern is fire. I up there in my marker on the chump stick, and what I've been trying to do at town hall meetings, on public comments with U.S. Forest Service, to get better communication with U.S. Forest Service, Cascade Conservation, Fire District, and landowners on getting access to, boundaries that have U.S. Forest Service that are not being taken care of. Yeah, so that seems to be something that is not happening yet. I had an email that went out and CC'd our elected officials and county commissioners, someone here, and we had a site visit, U.S. Forest Service, and they said they can do this. Hopefully they can tackle it, put it with the upper chump stick, have access road that they can access, but they're still not really engaged with Cascade Conservation. Gotcha. There is a staff member that the U.S. Forest Service has. It's their biggest budget they have is fire. That would come out and talk to landowners about getting access through their property to get to U.S. Forest Service, and I haven't heard anything. And I'm just wondering if you guys can help facilitate or give them a poke about that, because I consider where we live a priority. entire section of the fire.
Yeah, I know that cross boundaries, like good neighbor, is it's a big concern for a lot of people who, traditionally when I started, that was probably the number one thing we heard is people that are like, well, I did the right there, but if I go across that line, Forest Service finds out, I'm in big trouble. So that's definitely something because we try to advocate for private landowners, right? You pay the fire district for fire protection. We want to be able to protect them. So I mean, there's no issue with us, hopping on board and trying to be a squeaky wheel as well and just keep the ball rolling. I think the issue they struggle with sometimes is the breadth of what they're taking on. And they're looking to make these massive landscape changes where small changes in small areas could make a big difference for individual parcels. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
What would also be kind of helpful from them would be potentially looking at good neighbor, letting people operate on their property, right? As good neighbors.
Yeah. I mean, what I've suggested is we're going to have a small timber harvest in the spring. And once we have equipment there, they can easily go across the boundary there to take care of the 100 acres that have been untreated and is just in that bowl above Chuck Bowen's house. But Chuck Bowen, so that fire comes over that ridge, it'll burn that out in 3 minutes. Entire homes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge risk, but things are moving.
Work is like the group that you have 4 or 5 property owners together that have done some really good mitigation on their property now. And what they butt up against with the Forest Service is just.
I think I checked the house before too.
Last year, we burned by last year.
The Forest Service.
Well, and that's again, like we do hear that a lot, and it is disheartening for us when you have homeowners who are out cutting down, the fuel being burning, whatever it is, to get rid of them. But there's this boundary where they can't go beyond that boundary. There's your hazard area.
Yeah.
So I think the best way is, I think we would enjoy being a unified front and trying to get that change rolling. It's a tough one because we work with the fire guys all the time and we want to prod them, but the issue isn't really seem to be at the lower levels.
Yeah.
But we keep hearing about like the emergency declaration for the area. They can kind of skip some NEPA and things like that. Haven't quite seen it in action yet.
Yeah, that's a good point because that's happening right now. Right. Didn't we talk about, haven't we talked about that at the Chelan County level? Is the ability to expand the firewising that we're doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Sean Smith is going to be at our meeting on Wednesday.
I'll be there.
So good.
Yeah. I haven't heard from him at all. Seen him.
Having that
It's amazing how popular that is. Like you pull in the parking lot, they go to the bathroom, they leave, and like they have nothing to do, they just go to the bathroom.
That's nice when you got it out. So from the
creates things like that map. It's Atlas and Mercy around recreation land. And it's that installed there's a campaign. So without and it's really hard to find money on people.
It's easy to find money to build it. Finding grant and stuff else is like impossible. And myth and studies is ridiculous money, but they have to happen. You put every different land money, whether it's NEPA, SEPA, EIS, whatever. So it's easier to get money to build, but not to. Want to fund a shovel ready project? So here you have $20. So trying to do a study to come on a trail. And it actually goes plan. Right. So that's that.
Environmental planning.
Yeah, especially 80% of Chelan County is Forest Service, and I don't know if that's true. I've been skewing so long. True, but and so we have to go through their policy, which is NEPA, like the city's a SEPA process, SEPA process. So there's different processes to get us to even before we can get a shovel.
Actually, bike clubs, user it. Yeah. If we're doing it right. Yeah.
Good start.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah. Good start.
What are we doing? What should we do better? Yeah, how to get some things down here because I've met a lot of.
I think the same thing. Use our education. Like, I have a lot of out of town guests. A lot of us
Exactly.
help educate our out of town guests.
And we don't know this kind of environment, a mountain environment that's forested heavily. Most people don't live in that kind of environment.
Heather,
Absolutely.
very yes.
Yeah, I've got trees that are animals in my house. I just do.
There's a lot of homeless people living here studying.
Research space.
Surveys, I think it's so it's a good sense that there's a lot of things we could do that important, but like another was behavior in the Delph. Well, yeah, I think drive rail quality, the further south, like the thing, the three messages, rail and more of the one rail. So we're going to put up a rail and board boards that we message about the trailer. So one was we do that, right? Yeah, it's like we're spending a nice time where it's such fun. It's different, right? There's no social media. It changed people's behavior. So you ended up with really different things.
What's app they're on to get there? Trail Forks or whatever the app to get them there. Be like, hey, did you know this, and this, and pack it in, pack it out, and whether that's your dog waste or your waste, or
I mean, the trainers.
The bills on it. I feel like they're just knowing what's out there now, right? What's in a marketing campaign around what trail are available.
Hey, everybody. All right, so you got about a minute to wind down, and then you've got another minute to travel to your next station. So one more minute to finish up there where you're at. And you'll notice up on the screen up here, you see the 2 minutes topic swap. That's your time there to finish up for about a minute and travel to your next spot for about a minute. And I'll let you know when it's time to get rolling into your third station. Thanks, everybody.
There have been too, if they're worried about space. But in general, the city did report the comment. And so spread the word to all the businesses, like anyone to get. And if they're worried about it, Winton Waste helps with training, they help with education, with dollars, whatever. So
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a cost, of course.
All right. This is really rude. Sorry. Hey, everybody, you should be at your next station now. Finish up. You should be at your next station, starting now at your next station.
So it's like, it's the give and take, right? Oh, let's take time. Thank you, Colin. Guys are saying something we get to sort of what's the deal? It's too long. It's too long.
Yeah, so
What's your
my question is to answer your question. What do you have for us?
sorry, I have an entity fully access.
There were no sitting phone.
That's your problem today. Probably doesn't know that any Trump was talked about, yeah, they open says over on the street all about. How did that so? So I think to build it in the infrastructure that we have is cheaper and to ensure challenge the political that's a house and an empties from the thing. So maybe we can just do the house that we have in it. And yeah, and well, that's wrong. But the big company, really cool. Keeps so on his time. Keeps the body and don't look at that. Like his own spouse is a lot of subject matter is a recent phenomenon that altered. So the things are available for that prior trial and the two other ones. I think that's good. I don't know. It's gonna be an analogy. It's coming back. And after I just think that it's the and then by the year that you look at that news today and I was getting bar guys. It's not necessary. The manufacturer of okay, content.
I don't, I'm not sure they're. So just put it out. Yeah, that's something down outside. So. Yeah. Boys. What are going on?
Well, our guys
I want to know.
towards the clouds when they get to the
Publishing with that. Oh, yeah.
that's the we don't have
Not allowed to have.
so smart think this is or
Yeah. Which we can go down that list. We have had a chance to go list it because most of the time for burning questions. About the area. So.
I'm missing the single experience and person a lot of different things. So hopefully those end markets will continue to grow as the need grows. In the meantime, we can't haul strategic materials in Seattle. The next closest location is OI or Palema. And then from there, the next closest one is Portland. So in order for us to haul, we need to increase our hauling. So instead of hauling 2 to 3 tons of glass at a time, we need to be hauling like 20 tons of glass at a time. And with that, we need to be able to collect and store more glass so that we can haul more efficiently from that point. And so our next steps that we're looking at is to create those efficiencies of hauling and capacity at large to really work with the entire team on solving this problem together. So the Department of Ecology and others are starting to set up what's called a hub and spoke model. So like creating hubs of collection and then smaller spokes of collection. So essentially what we would need to happen is a hub around the Wenatchee Valley area. Leavenworth would be a little spoke, maybe Wenatchee and Cashmere would be a little spoke. And then from that hub, it'd fall more efficiently to OI or those teams. And so with that to happen, what we need is partnership and collaboration from elected officials like the city and the county, so that we can increase our capacity with funding and space. Those are the two really big things that it's going to take to help make this happen because we're going to have to increase and create space for it at large. So we've planted the seeds. We've actually been kind of working towards this thought of creating a larger hub this last year. We just need to make it happen. Waste Loop has applied for another grant with the Glass Recycling Foundation to help support those efforts of creating a bunker sort of operation so that we can collect that 3 tons of glass. And then we'd be able to haul. Yeah. So I'm encouraging community members to communicate with their elected officials like the concern of war, and that you want to help increase the capacity because really it's a service in our community. And so many nonprofits still give these stitches of services, but really like our community at large, Chelan County and the city of Leavenworth can help in that support. So that's one piece. Encouraging businesses to buy local. You're learning more and more what a local dollar does. And this is an example of the trickle down of what's happening when businesses aren't buying local bottles. Can you explain that more? Like what does that mean exactly? Like literally buying a glass bottle? Yeah. So if we had, say, all of the wineries in Washington State, if they bought Washington made bottles, then our bag glass not have cut operation. And strategic material would have more spaciousness to give them the recycled glass.
that makes sense.
Like sharing. Yeah.
It's like Trent. There are memberships that we're working with this like see if I'm correct that some of the bus manufacturers are like saying that is for that to maybe they can't use transportation, they still meaning. I'm a little fuzzy on it. I'm not like that EPC expert.
But there's a lot of organizations working on the battery circuit economy. Like the student network, they have a big fractional grant to like figure out how to create a circular economy because you can per second.
Yeah, you just have to be able to take it apart, apart and recycle. Which actually would be a great economic interest. Washington is to be able, there's really big grants at a federal level around establishing recycling facilities for electric vehicle batteries and it's like economic minister. Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
It's nice it's Grant County getting that. We're getting Grant County that for hydrogen, the hydrogen, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Is there so can you clean to because as I understand it, they're actually doing this grant, versus a battery thoughts.
They're a little more one for one. Yeah, it is Douglas.
Douglas. Thank you.
But we get asked about that a lot. I think kind of we're in a position where we are incredibly far ahead. Transit agency on the electric side, I think, and we had some painful lessons along the way. Also, I think we're not feeling even to like front. I think we're gonna like let it play out. And I mean, also, we're in such a cool position that Slam PE having cheap power, that electric really does make a lot of sense for us, and we're finding ways to make it work. So like we're actually doing it. So I don't know that. Well, yeah, there's some factors that are in our favor, but it's definitely something that comes out in this career. So we're gonna kind of wait to see. What about other, access to different locations from the living us now?
Yeah, I would just love for everything was talking about parking being a problem again. Like parking would be a problem if you're trying to drive here. And trying to drive here, there's a lot like the one of the big reasons is because once they give you why I want to take for activities, and even if there is like I guess hypothetically some of the Google trail beds, like most people don't know about them. You just talk about right? So like you can just maybe it's available, but also like taking your and then like dark insurance, like all the things like that for you to not have to worry about the stress of parking and not more than one thing. Right, totally. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Any other like locations maybe there's specific or any other? I mean, all the major trailheads up and down basically this way. Maybe I suppose kind of the bicycle or the river. I mean, it's the main corridor and.
It's what your relation had your new last trail, but
yeah, that'd be great too. Yeah, we could tell it direct. Came down just green. It was first. That's what I should not get this.
Yeah, I think for us actually, the big issue in trailhead is to turn the yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. But the dark buses.
That's true though. It's funny. They don't necessarily have that good of a strength. It's like our 30-foot electric bus is actually
because we're on the campgrounds, at least it's an RV trailer to get over there.
I guess that's a good. Yeah, that's
Hey, ready? You got about a minute to wrap up. About a minute to wrap up. and then a minute to travel. And I want to remind you, there's a whole bunch of cookies and stuff back here. So maybe on your way from station to station, you can grab yourself something yummy to eat. All right, so about a minute to wrap up and then another minute to travel.
To shut down the water plant and we live off the well. So I mentioned in a previous group that we are one of the remaining localities in our state that have both this. So it is trying this is great. Water tax one and recreational are detrimental for the salt. For ensuring redundancy. I hear one's down. Stuff well, it only keeps the same. Right. Versus just one rest. It's year 17 years I've heard every year that I lived here. So how can we take water, gray water, do pumps and use it on field? The problem with that is we need infrastructure. They move the water around. And we don't have a stormwater system built in. Water only flows one direction, you know, in order to actually reduce water, you need pumps. We need to pump water up in lots of different directions. So that's one thing story. It's calcium and future, right?
They have raised up if someone's wanting to get involved, how would you get
Time to move on. You got 20 seconds before you start your next session. About 20 seconds before you start your next session, so move on.
Committees or anything like that, or okay. So maybe that's the only thing that's changed. Maybe that's education.
Join me on
I suppose where.
yeah, you can summarize corporate. Definitely.
That's a city entity.
It's more than that. It's big.
Okay.
If they have something like 40 or 50 members, they already big there.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for showing up. Thank you so much. You did a fantastic job. It's just a good job.
Thank you.
Certainly put battery because they can't get to everybody. The three to write the questions for separate day on the sites. This is towards battery. Right. So the questions. Yeah. So what kind of people do you get?
It's a question. It's what you're doing your vision recognition. That is from what you're next slide. Yeah. Where are you current one that you're doing? You're in charge of this. It's where?
5-year plans.
Okay.
That's pretty. That's 20. Yeah, and then once we get done with tier visioning, next year we're gonna work on it is 5 years. Yeah. Or I would say it's
Are you once behind the car, goals or targets, or checking where we get that? Click that. 30 seconds.
ongoing. It's something big mission accomplished. I mean, one of our objectives, for example, was to support economic development. And we've done so in a variety of aspects to that. Another one was to enhance the quality of life and things like that. So, we could have we do have things like that we set in our annual financial plans for the work budget. And the same as anybody else. About science and parts identified we'd like to meet or have a different water system. Water systems, water systems back into the fiber. It's fine. Those gives financial sustainability.
and applied to achieve that for water. He's water being picked up in very needy water system.
But so you achieved it for water, you said?
The chief one. It's just like meteors. How do you develop those and maintain them sustainably? Talked about, educating users, being a concern is enough happening, and yet it is also something we're doing right. So the two things can be true, like we're doing a good job of getting going, and we need dog and human waste, other like negative resource impacts to erosion or wildlife freight distances increasing, whatever. What other concerns come to mind, you guys? Or if you want me to check something, I really want to emphasize that. Well, fair enough.
It's just like incentive, instead of just going and using some incentivizing you go and not be hard to just want to engage into it, but just like help.
Yes. That almost seems like something we would put here, like what we could do better. So I feel like we have yeah.
I feel like they're long as I do a lot of hunting, like watching a trail for the day. But I don't feel like they're out here too much. Which isn't to say we need them. It's just they like opportunity. I know like he'll have opportunities for and participation and everything to like participate in things. But some of the other trails like that are mentioned, like how does it like looking at it, I know the answer. Like, is there enough resources for like bicycle? What did you say? Guys, like the kind of the bicycle ridge, right? Like a lot of traffic there, or high suburbs. Thing I've noticed, particularly with Bicycle Ridge, I feel like when I go up there, there are more and more of the switchbacks, so the erosion problem.
So I'm curious about it too. We're catching that at Ski Hill too, and TJ was telling me about the fences in between every switch. And I was like, I just stay on the trail, but it's the hikers. But actually, I think it's the dogs.
Definitely dogs.
No, it's all the dogs. They're cutting those footpaths. They're so steep. I'm sorry, but they're so steep that the dogs are doing that, and they keep. Everybody's like, I too was convincing youths. Like up there, and there's little dog tracks, and it's like, humans aren't cutting that. That's not walking.
Have seen like
People, on Icicle Ridge, the deer are doing some of it too. I mean, deer run straight up and down this.
So lead manager, we have these steep game trails and we put up these signs that said like no humans in a circle with a deer in it. And I'm like,
yeah, but there are a lot of people that cut the switchbacks.
Yeah.
And we keep throwing logs into those areas and they keep disappearing.
Right. It's not weird.
Yeah, those are dogs.
Dogs did not move the logs out.
And I keep throwing bigger and bigger ones.
Yes, but we run out of logs on the trail. We need more logs up.
Well, or rail fences. I hate to say TJ is quite right, but
yeah, I'd hate to see that happen.
I agree. So it's what's that? Something else. Yeah.
There you go.
Poison oak. Anybody can download have that. It's good information. Yeah. Watch news. It's a 501c3 that created. So you're gonna be most firefighters that watch you do. So one of the other things I've been asking, we already kind of got some feedback, was but on that communication. It sounds like and we did have a research study done by Wildfire Institute for Research and Education, and they said that an email newsletter came back as like the highest response for how people want to get connected. We are on Facebook now. It sounds like we need to make an Instagram. And we have the website. Last year we tried sending out DNR for wildfire ready neighbors to do home assessments. They sent out everything in 986. In Fire District 3, which should have been 1,000 hours, got up to 4 responses. So it just wasn't, it didn't work that great. It's not going to necessarily give up on this. We've also had
reader board station, some kind of sign for change information on it. Give people, put our website on it to give people information on it, kind of what's going on right now, burn bans, things like that. And we will continue. It's onerous, right? In fire districts, and we only have 7 full-time personnel, but we do door to door. So you might see a door hanger one day at your house or at your home. You hear knock on the door. Our guys go out, offer for this neighborhood, like a home assistance. We can do that for you. So that's what we're doing so far, but we're always open to feedback. Or it's like here, if there's some other medium, I'm not technical, that there's some way that people are getting information that you guys would like to see it on there. We would love to hear business.
Fire city residential areas. It's I think should how she can be education as to deal with sort of mandatory nature. Rural residential spaces and homes have they're coming to party and have artists barbecue their minds or families. They have a sense of fire safety channels about even streets, shelters, the shifts like area that should be addressed. Which are now have such waiver as an identical for sure. It's like that target a possible dissemination of information.
Yes. So we developed and tried to distribute some brochures so that this is pretty set that, number one is to look for events. So this right. Well, there's also like a fire safety brochure that tells them hey, here's the website you can go to, see what the burn restrictions are. Out in the county, it can be tough. I would say the greatest tool that we have there is actually going to be people calling in if they see somebody having a burn that they shouldn't have and things like that. I mean, we will go out and check and let them know. But that's one of our more difficult challenges because a lot of times we can go and look on CAD and the person who owns the house isn't here. Right. And then you're trying to get a hold of them and we don't contact other than it's definitely something that's on our radar. I wish I had better solutions how to into a try to provide brochures and things like that, and encourage people. We have a lot of advice because the city has got probably the stricter regulations in the city that allows us to get stage wilderness and so on. Huge reality reads the houses are so we need to work out there.
So as a community member, I think, these exercises are great.
All right, this is your last chance to travel, folks. You got about a minute. About a minute to finish up there, and then one more station. One more station for your last 10-minute session.
You can share your voice with that. Being engaged, with what's happening on the state side. So, like I mentioned, there's state legislation that goes through, and they haven't been able to pass these really important things for the last 4 years. That could have been dropped like a bottle bill to Washington State. That would be
after this next station. We'll have a wrap up, a little bit of report out. Carl will make a few statements, a couple other things. So,
the return system here again. So it's putting our values, our resources. And
One more
also
time,
one more time,
folks. One more
one more
station.
station.
Your last 2
Your last
minutes.
years. And so, like, these programs in Oregon, like model reuse, is a lot more successful because they have the foundation of support. So stay tuned, like on our social media, on our newsletter, on our website. We try to educate the community about like what's coming down the pipe through the Washington State Legislature. Yeah, don't want to take that over.
Question, I'm gonna sit off with violence for a couple seconds and just read the list. It's much better for you to ask questions that are on your mind than the questions you have on paper.
Okay, I got this. My pet, what is the status of something actually did that route plane from the laboratory? That's the least.
That is the first question that was like. And if they don't, that's a good question. I'm
Been following this project now. No, haven't, but you know, certain
so suggest one way about the three.
my mate's
I got it here already.
yeah, yeah.
What's the next step? Yeah. What's the pathway from? I don't know.
That.
That I mean, we're focused right now on developing goal aggressive energy core. They're working with property transportation and regular development of actually left forward, but as part of the package, we're also house for doing this thing runs setting installation. Well, I think in the future they're going to be big layer.
Gravel.
Probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and initially they were looking at putting it like along the foothill, like by a power canyon, you know, they're going back and forth. Yeah, it's probably gonna go inside. Fine. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, I think that's priority number one is that thing that's right in the right now. And then they're out of short. Send that game.
So what is the trust work out on right now? Check how I
I can't talk about any like deals that are in progress. But I can tell you like the broad areas that's doing. Right now in Douglas County, we're working on sage grouse habitat. We're buying a bunch and getting people mostly buying a lot of habitat. In Kenya, White River Green Good, we're buying any riparian sand or so we can get them to something. We're making huge climate change initiatives. You'll get prioritizing habitat long term. What projects are going to prioritize plants for towns?
Sagebrush. Sagebrush.
Like sage grouse. You bring our sage grouse. Grouse. Yeah, grouse. Yeah, grass grouse. Yeah. Biggest left hang area. It's had some struggles with that's how like this thing works. Government. I'm not going to be right.
Yeah, when it's all going.
Hey,
I know a funding issue right now.
Yeah, here's also we thought maybe going up to about what's the needs are needs for institutions for transit specifically, I guess, in the area, anything that we're not serving now that maybe should be or anything else. Transit wise.
The bus, land from Fletcher, really steep. That would break the trip. Oh, and I was so excited, you know, to do it. I planned it with my mother-in-law and a friend of ours. And so I, had all the schedule and I had the app, but I just like that's great. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're saying was like you're saying like want to go somewhere on a trip. It's nice to be able to go to these little towns that are walk the towns. When there's tourists, and you just take the bus. So I think for this wider area, I think we can look at great travel. Like kindly like my transportation friend. You're like, you know what? So I need a designated driver to go to Vance. So you do, yeah, exactly. Cool. They're a bus driver.
And once you arrive, you're fresh.
That's
You have the driver.
that's yes, that goes.
So you can enjoy where you are.
The only thing is would be like if I've had some kind of recreation with the bus. I know the bikes. I did bike.
Yeah.
We had instead of that. So I'm not sure if there's any kind of transportation right off the recreation for here.
I have brought a paddleboard and back.
Right. Yeah.
Bus or that
That worked. Yeah. Right.
works. Maybe if it's like a session, like ground line, but generally that. Yeah, I had a see whether or like higher phone.
Since we've been hatcheries and how we're ensuring that our dams have no net impact. So we just did a 10-year 10-year confirmation study that shows we have no net salmon runs in one rock island and one rock range. One rock island in 2021, so that's juvenile salmon headed to the eastern 94%. Like 3% now, right? About that study was done. So about how in general our projects make things 6%. And 1 of 10 sector would
Speed through the damn fresh. I think we should have the unbraced.
well, so the water dam is we didn't build it. It was there to help electrify trains and passing cities, electricity pass. It hasn't produced electricity from 1950s, and it is now used as a facility for trapping and counting fish. So we trap fish, we use the adult fish. Our hatchery of the works. That's what land beauty, and this fish and all like that. I used that facility for to get it to talk so exterminates things. Are there better ways? There might be flaws. I'm studying. Yeah, that's it's very nice. But just thinking out loud, this is not my area of expertise.
Instead of category of what we just buy. Getting and we mountain sprouts and beautiful guys on strider bikes on the mountain or on the ski hill. It's so amazing. And then what do we do today?
Like we do a bunch of stuff too, like all the high school bikes club with bike camps up there. If I get them, they're week-long camps. I get them for one day, get up 4 hours, and we go offer and maintain trails, right? And we do a bunch of WRI camps. A lot of those kids are from Wenatchee that have never gone out before. It's been a real ethnic diversity, which getting them out there the first time. We go up there and we walk the trees. Kids aren't allowed to play with singing nowadays, so I'm giving them a lot. But it's so cool. As long as they come back with all these, where it's a good day, right? And I think that's part of that thing is getting those kids engaged. That trails don't just happen, tightness needs to happen, and hopefully with that comes the actually take care of this trail. I should have and respect crunching on the switchbacks.
Yeah, it's to know that there's a place for them to ride that's safe
like that with it. And they came out and do that and I said,
Folks, we're going to do a really quick wrap up back here together. Really quick wrap up. If you could just start making your way back.
Set off.
And then after that, Stacey, she also coached it. He's like,
All right, folks, come on back up. We're going to just take the last few minutes and wrap up really quick. Couple announcements, etc. First of all, I know, where did Maggie go? I just lost her. Maggie had something real quick, so yeah, hold on.
Super quick update. The county working with all the other cities, we're going through the hazard mitigation plan update. And this has been in the works for the last couple of years, and we're in the final stages. So I was just notified by Pertit, who is the consultant that Chelan County has hired to put this plan together. And we are going to be doing a public outreach meeting on Thursday, October 3rd. So next Thursday at City Hall, council chambers from 6 to 7:30. And they're going to be giving you an update on the draft plan. There's going to be outreach online on social media. We should be getting more information this week. I don't have a ton of information right now, but just wanted to give you a heads up that there will be a meeting next Thursday at City Hall from 6 to 7:30 to go over the draft hazard mitigation plan. That's
all right. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for your involvement and your concern and passion and care about all of this. Can we give a round of applause to the folks who came out tonight and manned these stations and answered your questions and listened to your ideas? Awesome. I also want to give another round of applause just to the city council and the folks from the city and the planning folks just for listening and caring enough to bring you all into this process. Awesome. I want to just, well, I guess Carl's going to do the same thing, but October 14th, we'll be meeting again. That will be a time where a lot of your questions will be answered. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, please submit them. Again, there's box up. There was box. Where's the boxes again? Sorry. Behind me? Yes, right next to where I was standing. There's a box up here. There's a box back there. So put your questions in. You can also, it sounds like some of you had some questions submitted at the different stations, so those will be tallied and brought back to us. That says the 23rd. Is that? It is the 14th. True? Okay, she's going to change it right now in front of you. There we go. That is at the fire hall. Okay, and Carl will mention that as well. So it's October 14th at the fire hall. So yeah, please come back for that. Yeah, so again, if you didn't get your questions answered in the last several weeks, please don't forget to submit those, either send an email to the city, drop them in the boxes. And I'm going to have Carl close us up here tonight.
And again, I'm just supposed to say over and over, 14th, not here. If you come here, you won't get in. It'll all be set up for the Oktoberfest, so that's why it's actually going to be at the fire hall. But we don't need all the tables then, because we're not going to do this kind of round tabling. We'll just have a bunch of chairs, and we'll just be sharing the information back with you. So that'll work out great. So fire hall, come back here, and also we'll tease you with some other things that'll be coming. So the next steps and the things that, we've got some exciting next steps as well. So that's where you'll find out about that. And again, all of this will get compiled and we'll spit it back out to you, and as well as your questions and stuff. So again, thank you. It's been a great process. Once you get Leavenworth talking, you can't get them to shut up. So that's wonderful. So again, thanks for being here tonight, for engaging with us. Keep it up. We count on it, and it'll make it the plan will be much better with your involvement. So thanks.